Is this proof that ghosts are real? Yes, the candle is for effect. Mind your business. In the 1980s, there was a group of British police officers. They were called out to an apartment in Gravesend. They were told that there was noise and banging coming from the property, and people believed that somebody had broken in. The police then arrived at the property. They could hear what sounded like furniture being dragged and glass being broken. The owner of the apartment then arrived. He'd had a phone call from his neighbour explaining what was going on. So he came home. He handed his key to the police because the apartment door was locked. When they got inside, they realised the place was empty. There was no broken windows, and of course, the door was locked. However, what they did notice, that there was furniture that had been piled up in every single room. Chairs had been stacked. Ornaments from the fireplace had all been stacked on top of each other, and they found cutlery in the light shade. If you enjoy these creepy, weird, or even spooky stories with a candle, please do show the page some love. Hit the like button, hit repost, and if you aren't already following me, why not? Anyway, the police came out the property and they said to the owner, look, you can go in, the coast is clear, we do not believe that there's anybody inside the property, but we do want to have a word with you, we want to show you something. When the guy then entered the apartment, he went quiet, he went pale. He told the police officers that his wife had died 3 weeks ago, and she jokingly said to him, I will come back and I will prove that ghosts are real. He explained to the police officers that she said, I will move things around. I will make it really obvious that it's me. So the police then left the property. They documented everything. It is in police statements that when they arrived, they could hear furniture being moved. They could hear breaking of glass. They could hear noises, but yet they found nothing. And that very next night, the police received the same phone call, the same report, and guess what? It all happened again. That apartment also had cameras, CCTV that captured outside of them apartments. And it did in fact go along with the story, the fact that the apartment owner left for work and he didn't return again until he got that phone call. Was this the ghost of his wife? In case you are wondering, it's rhubarb and it smells very nice.
I didn't think this story was going to be as scary as it was, but it definitely is, so let me just start. So this guy says that when he was younger, one of his distant aunts passed away. He says that he really didn't know her, but he could tell the big impact that her death made on the family. Since they all traveled into the town that she passed away at, they sent him to go and spend the night with his cousins. He explains how they weren't going to stay at the cousin's house, but at their cousin's grandmother's house. He had never met their grandmother until then, and he explains how she was really nice and even asked him to call her Mama Carmen. And no, it was not his grandmother. He was related to the uncle. The aunt was by law married, and his aunt, so it was the mom's mom, so not his grandmother, but his cousin's grandmother. I hope that makes sense. He explains that Mama Carmen's house was really big and it was made out of wood and it was so pretty, but he knew that there was just something off or weird about it. So when nighttime came, they directed him to this really big room in the house, and the older cousin said something to him that just like threw him off. Before walking out of the bedroom, his cousin tells him, hey, whatever you do, just don't respond to them. And he was like, what? What do you mean? And the cousin tells him, just don't respond to the voices. Don't respond to the thing that's gonna talk to you from under the bed. Bitch, if you think I was about to stay there, I'm gonna go wherever you're going after that, cause what the hell? However, he knew his cousins and how much they play around, all the pranks they've done on him in the past. So he was just like, ugh, this is another prank, so whatever, yeah, I won't listen to the voices. He also admits that when his cousins would stay at his house, he would also scare them, so obviously he just thought this was a joke. So he ends up falling asleep and then wakes up to a voice calling him by his name, Felipe. He thought he was dreaming, but as he opened his eyes, he could have sworn that he heard that last little Felipe. Not me giving myself goosebumps right now. So he's laying there very still, awake, and hears nothing. And as he's drifting off to sleep again, he hears that voice again, Felipe. This time, he recognized the voice calling him by name. It had been a very long time since he had heard that voice. It was almost like he had forgotten what that voice sounded like, and it was because it was his mom's voice. His mother, who was no longer living. He immediately gets up and starts walking towards the door. He says he doesn't even want to look back. He doesn't even have the courage to look back and see what is underneath the bed, but he exits the room. However, when he finally makes it to the door where his cousins were sleeping, he said that he felt embarrassed. He thought to himself, if I go in there and tell them that I'm scared or tell them that I heard voices, they're never gonna let it go. I'm gonna have to hear this for the rest of my life, and he didn't want to deal with that. He said that it took him a minute to grow some courage, but he just turned around and went right back to the bedroom that he was sleeping in. He walks down the hallway, goes into the room, lays down, and he's laying there for a good minute. And finally, he is drifting off to sleep, and that is when he hears the voice again. Felipe, I forgive you. You have nothing to forgive me for, he said, half asleep, responding to the voice. You wish for me to die, but I forgive you, the voice responded. So this is where Felipe finally starts telling us a story about what happened with his mom back when she was alive. And he says that he has to confess something that he had never told anyone. His mom was really sick, so sick that she fell into like some sort of paralysis on her body. And he had to take care of the mom because the dad basically abandoned them when this happened because he couldn't deal with it. So can you imagine, like, the mom fell into paralysis, the dad left because he just couldn't deal with it, and he left his son to take care of a fully grown adult. He does say that the dad did continue to send them money to help out around the house, but he never showed up. He stopped playing outside with the neighborhood kids. He stopped doing his homework. He didn't go to school anymore. And all he did all day long, 24/7, was to take care of his mom. And he admits that at that time, he really hated his life and everybody who was in it. And yes, it's true. He really wished for his dad to die for doing this to him, but he also admits that he wished for his mom to die as well. He says that he doesn't wish her dead the same way he wished his dad dead. He wished her dead just so that she can get some peace, so that she wouldn't be in pain, and so that he can also just be a kid again. And he says that it was really hard to take care of her because she couldn't eat by herself, she couldn't shower by herself, she couldn't even go to the restroom. So it was things that he had to do for her, and it was a lot. But that desire for his mom to die was something that he never told anyone, not a single soul. And this is in fact the very first time that he's writing this down for this podcast to share with the world. So we go back to the voice telling him that she forgives him for wishing her dead. He is more asleep than awake when he asks for forgiveness to the voice that sounds like his mom. He admits that he doesn't know if it was really his mom or what was underneath that bed, but because of what the voice said, he wanted to ask for forgiveness, and he actually put his hand down underneath the bed. He didn't know what he expected. He didn't know if he expected somebody to grab his hand, for someone to say that he's forgiven, but he put his hand down there and actually fell asleep with his hand just hanging there. After falling asleep, he was awoken by a weird sound, and when he opened his eyes, it's when he felt a sensation of something touching his hand. He explains how the hand felt really rough, and it was definitely coming from underneath that bed. At first, he thought he was dreaming, but no, this was definitely not a dream. He was definitely awake. So by this point, the hand was already grabbing at his chest, and he was terrified. He said his heart was beating so fast. However, his curiosity won over the fear that he was feeling. So he literally moved to the edge of the bed and looked to see what was coming out from underneath the bed. What he saw was this very long, gray, old-looking hand coming from underneath that bed. It was fucked up. It was scary. As he was looking at the hand, he could see his hand next to that other hand, so he knew he was awake, but he couldn't take in what he was seeing. It was a lot, and it was crazy. He said at that point, his body became very cold. He was very stiff, and he can still look at his hand and at the hand grabbing at it now, like they're trying to pull him down. And in that very moment, as he's being pulled down, the voice is saying, I forgive you. I forgive you. I forgive you. Over and over again. It was at this moment that voice completely changed. It didn't even sound like his mom's voice anymore, and it sounded like it was making fun of him. So now the voice was like mocking him, saying, do you forgive me? Do you forgive me? Like over and over. He said that the way the voice changed was like it was using his mom's voice, and then all of a sudden it was just not his mom at all. So like it was trying to trick him. For some reason, this reminds me of Leprechaun. Have you guys seen it? Where like his voice changes. That was also the moment where he remembered what his cousin told him. If a voice voice is talking to you, do not respond. He wanted to take that advice, so he decided to stay quiet, but at that moment, it was too late. He had already talked back to the voice. Without knowing what to do, he said that he literally bit his mouth so that he wouldn't talk anymore, closed his eyes, and just stayed very still. He even tried to let go of the hand that was holding him, but the more he tried to let go of the hand, the more the hand was trying to pull him underneath the bed. Felipe, let me go. I'm getting scared. I can't do it. Felipe, let me go. Felipe, let me go. That's what the voice was telling him now. He finally understood that that was not his mom. That was not his mom's ghost. That was not his mom at all. It was actually the complete opposite of what his mom was. So he fought. He said that he fought for the longest time. He tried to hit. He tried to hold on to the bed. He was not about to let this thing drag him under. And he was successful because it finally let go of his hand from all the fighting that he was doing. And when that happened, he immediately turned to the side of the bed where the wall is, where that thing cannot reach him. He said that he sat there next to the wall on the bed, just waiting for a hand to come up and try to get him again. And it was the longest silence he had ever experienced. But that was also when the sun finally came out and he heard somebody in the kitchen. He literally jumped off the bed to the door into the kitchen, and it was Mama Carmen that was in there. He told Mama Carmen everything that had happened in the bedroom the entire night. He admits that she never interrupted him. She heard everything he had to say. When he finally finished telling her what happened, she just looked at him, smiled at him, and said, "You shouldn't give anything that much importance." That surely it was a hallucination or he was dreaming. That maybe it was because of him going to the cemetery and funerals because of that aunt that passed away that might have caused him to hallucinate or have these types of dreams. She also asked him not to pay attention or to listen to his cousins because they're little scaredy cats and they also love scaring people but were scared as well. She told Felipe that they used to sleep in that bedroom and then didn't want to sleep in that bedroom anymore, so maybe they made it up so that no one could sleep in there. Sorry, what? You're telling me that they've experienced this, but you're saying they made it up because what? She said that she believes that they made up this story so that they can move out of that bedroom and somebody else occupy the space that they were always scared to sleep in. He admits that he would have loved to believe her saying that they made this up, but how would they explain the voice? How could he explain the things that the voice was saying that only he knew? Now I'm curious as to what his cousins experienced in that room because it's obvious that they've experienced something. He was like, there's no way that they could have pranked me with my mom's voice and saying things that I had never told anybody. So yeah, she doesn't want me to be scared, but I believe my cousins and I believe they experienced something in there. He also says that he's never gonna forget what that hand looked like. That was not a dream. That was not something that he dreamt of. He was awake and he was there. But man, I would not know what to do if that happened to me. What do you guys think?
Can we show him the older homestead?
Yeah, let's go. As you know.
No, it's not. No, it's not. Was that you?
Yeah, that's on either side.
It went to both.
Yeah.
Okay, I worked at a haunted hospital, okay, on a postpartum unit as a CNA. And that hospital is haunted, okay? And ain't nobody gonna tell me different. The postpartum unit is definitely haunted, okay? I have so many stories, but this is one. This is one that happened. So I was working night shift. We would only have one CNA on usually, okay? So it's just me and the nurses. This hospital is super old hospital. It's the only hospital in the community other than the hospitals on the military base. But for everyday civilians, it's the only hospital. So it's pretty old. It's been renovated. Anyway, the postpartum unit, the nurse's station is here in the middle. One side is postpartum. One side is pediatrics. We don't, by that time, oh, sorry, my chest started hurting. Anyway, so like I said, so the pediatric side and the postpartum side. At that time that this incident happened, we had no patients on the pediatric side, none at all. So we had cribs down there, we had all kinds of storage stuff down there, and we did have a supply closet down there. Other than that, that's all we had down there because it was completely empty. We had low census. We only had patients on postpartum. So, you know, the night's going good. I'm working with my besties. You know, we ordered our DoorDash. We're having us a good night. It's a good night, okay? All of a sudden, the call bell starts ringing. And I'm like, okay, like, that's weird because I didn't take care of everybody else. Like, something must be going on. Like, why is the call bell going off? Like, what does this mama's need? So I go look at it because the call bell is in a nurse's station. And I answer the phone. I say, "This is Maria. How can I help you?" Nothing. I say, okay, that's weird. So I get out the nurse station and I go look and I see that there's a light ringing down the pediatric side. Mind you, there's no patients down there. So I'm like, why is that light ringing? There's nobody down there. I'm like, okay, whatever. So I just hang up the phone. I'm like, okay, because sometimes, like, you know, maybe it's a glitch. Okay, it's fine. Like, you know, it's an old hospital, whatever. I knew there was no patients down there. Like, for 100% I knew. So I was like, I'm not even going to walk down there. You know, I'm trying to eat my little food while it's hot, whatever. So then about like 5 minutes later, call bell goes off again. I answered. I say, hello, this is Maria. How can I help you? Nothing. I say, okay, all right. So I get out and I go look. And again, it is the same light down the pediatric side that's in this one particular room that's ringing. I'm like, okay, like what is somebody down there? Like is a housekeeper down there? Is somebody down there that actually needs some help? So I walk down the hallway. Mind you, as soon as I start walking down the hallway, I start feeling nauseous, okay? And maybe it's in my head, maybe it's not, but I start feeling nauseous, I start feeling anxious. I'm walking down the hallway looking like this, you know, like make sure ain't nobody behind me. Because I'm the only person walking down this pediatric hallway by myself. I get to the room because I can see on the outside of the door that the light is flashing, and I look in. And when I look inside of the room, not only is there no patient there, there's nothing in the room. And by nothing, I mean there's no bed, there's no bedside table, there's no remote control for the TV, there's no call light. There's no call light, okay? How is the call light ringing not only on the outside, it's ringing on the outside of the door and at the nurse's station? There's no call light in there. By that, I mean, if you work in a hospital, you know those call lights attached to the wall. It's like a long, you know, cord attaches to the wall that has like a remote, whatever. That wasn't in the room. Now, this was pretty common that there wasn't stuff in the room because we had low census, so sometimes other units would borrow our stuff, or sometimes we would just not have anything in the room because we would be putting our big cribs, you know, in there, whatever. So I wasn't surprised that there wasn't nothing in the room. However, I was surprised, okay, that not only was the call light going off and there's nobody in the room, but there's no call bell. There's no call bell, okay? I about ran back to the nurse's station. You know how SpongeBob was like running when he's taking the trash out? Like, that was me. And that is one of many stories I have of when I worked at a haunted hospital, okay?
Supernopea paranormaali storytime äidin teiniajoilta. Tämä tarina on oikeasti aika karmiva, joten jos oot herkkä, niin en suosittele kuuntelemaan tätä. Äiti pelasi kerran noin 15-vuotiaana kavereidensa kanssa spiritismiä, ja yksi heistä oli kysynyt pelin aikana hengeltä, että Piru, näyttäydy meille. Peli antoi vastaukseksi kello 12, johon pelaaja oli kysynyt, että mistä tunnistamme sen. Piru oli vastannut, että kyllä te huomaatte, kun se olen minä. Äiti ja hänen kaverinsa lopettivat pelaamisen, ja myöhemmin illasta he suuntasivat kaupungille. He seisoivat eräällä grillillä, kun äiti kiinnitti huomionsa pikkupoikaan, joka ajoi kolmipyörällä keskellä tietä. Äiti hymyili lapselle, mutta lapsen hymy muistutti enemmänkin irvistystä, eikä se kääntänyt katsettaan pois. Silloin äiti tajusi, ettei pikkulapset kulje keskellä yötä kaupungilla yksin. Lapsi ajoi kulman taakse, ja kun äiti yritti juosta katsomaan lapsen perään, niin ketään ei näkynyt.
Top 5 Creepy Paranormal Stories from My Followers, Part 3. When I was a kid, I had a nightmare, so I had ran to my parents' room. My parents had a lot of kids, so they thought I'd be fine and sent me back to my room that I shared with my older sisters. When I walked into the hallway leading to the room, I saw myself standing there across from me with my blanket just staring at me across the hallway in front of the door. She smiled at me, then laid down on the floor, so I walked backwards until I couldn't see her anymore and ran to my other sister's room. I couldn't sleep for a week, but nobody in my family believes me because I was so young. My daughter was about 2 when we moved into a new place, and she started talking about George. She talked about him daily and would say he was a grandpa with red on him. She talked about him daily. One day, I woke up with this urgent feeling like I needed to get her and her sister out of their room. I walked into their room and it felt so heavy. The next morning, she said George kept the bad guy away from her. He was protecting her. When we moved a couple years later, she still talked about George daily until the moment we got to our new house. She never spoke of George again. I was sleeping on my back next to my boyfriend who lived in a giant old house that was broken up into small apartments. I was woken up by what felt like a cat jumped on my sheet and was crawling up my body. We didn't have any pets. The weight of the cat disappeared and was replaced by a perfect outline of a man. He was standing in front of a streetlight lit window, so he was black darkness. Then he pixelated and disappeared. I woke my boyfriend and plastered myself to him the rest of the night. My childhood home was haunted by the ghost of a little girl who died not long after the house was built, late 60s. She was mainly active in my little sister's room when my sister would often be caught talking to someone in her closet at around the same time every night, 2:30 a.m. Every time I would be in my sister's room, I would always feel like I wasn't welcome in there. I would also have nightmares about a little girl taking my sister away from me. My toys would also randomly be missing or broken. About 3 years later of this happening, my cat had suddenly died from a heart attack. I firmly believe the ghost had somehow caused the heart attack because I then started to wake up with scratches around my neck and on my chest after waking up from nightmares of the little girl attacking me and yelling at me to stay away from my sister. I believe my cat had been somehow protecting me and the little girl had enough. Once I started waking up with scratches, my parents got the house blessed and I had no more nightmares or scratches for the rest of the time I lived in that house. And at number 5. When I was about 7, my mom, sister, and I were spending the night at my Nana's. We were all in the living room, mom on the big couch directly in front of the hallway to the bedrooms and bathroom, my sister on a cot, and me on a love seat across from my mom. For some reason, I woke up in the middle of the night and found my mom leaning on her arm looking down the hallway. I started talking to her, asking what she was doing, got zero response. After saying mom a few times, she slowly turned her head to look at me, but it wasn't my mom looking at me. Whoever it was had glowing red eyes. They stared at me for what felt like forever before I finally put my blanket over my head and went back to sleep. I asked my mom about it the next morning, and she had no idea what I was talking about. It definitely scared me, and even now I can still picture the exact scene. That wasn't the only paranormal thing I experienced in that house or on that land, but it was definitely the scariest.
What the fuck was that? Bro!
What's going on around you?
I don't know. I'm frozen. I am frozen.
Did the window
Sean.
break?
My daughter whispered something to me during church, and we left immediately. We were sitting in the back row at church, just me and my daughter. She had her head on my shoulder, real calm and quiet. Then right in the middle of sermon, she sat up straight, stared at the front. I leaned over and asked if she was okay. She didn't answer. Then she whispered, "Dad, why is that woman floating?" I looked where she was pointing, but I didn't see anything, just a group of older women in the choir section. I said, "There's no one floating." She said, "Yes, there is. She's wearing all white. Her feet aren't touching the floor." I looked again. Still nothing. I told her to draw what she saw. She grabbed one of the offering envelopes and a pen from my coat pocket. She drew a woman, long dress, eyes closed, no feet. And right at the bottom she wrote, "She keeps asking me if I remember her." I asked, "Do you?" She shook her head, then looked scared. Whispered. She said, "You used to bring me here when I was a baby before the fire." I froze because this church didn't have a fire, at least not that I know of. But the woman sitting next to us tapped my arm and said, "Your daughter okay?" I looked back, and for a split second, the row in front of us was completely empty, like we were the only ones in the building. I grabbed her hand, got my son from the other classroom, and we left. She said the woman in white kept asking if we remembered the fire.
You're about to hear one of the most disturbing true stories on the internet. In 1921, a German farmer woke up to find a deep set of footprints leading from the forest right up to his back door. Whoever had come to his house had not left yet. After making sure it wasn't just his family, he searched everywhere on his property and his house everywhere, and he could not determine who made the prints or where they went. A few weeks later, his maid abruptly quit, saying that every time she's alone in the house, she hears demonic voices in the attic. Shortly thereafter, he and his family start to hear the voices too. When no one's heard from them in a couple days, the neighbors go over to check and they find them in the barn. One by one, each of the family members made their way down to the barn where they were systematically murdered and stacked in the corner. To this day, no one knows who or what is responsible for this crime.
Do not not listen to this scary story at nighttime or right before you're going to bed. Because I love you so much, I'm giving you this warning because what the fuck? So typically I listen to a lot of Spanish scary stories because I like translating them for you guys. I typically listen to these when my husband's asleep next to me and I'm just like scrolling story through story, right? I will say when I listened to this story, I got full body chills, right? But I was like, okay, cool, I'm saving this. This is gonna be a good ass story, and I just kept going. A lot of the times you guys ask me in my comments like, how do you sleep after reading all these stories? And I'm gonna be honest, I sleep perfectly well. Like typically I'm not scared, and I wasn't scared last night, which is why it's so weird that I had a dream about this fucking story. I guess this story really impacted me more than I thought. So I'm gonna translate the story for you guys, and then I'm gonna tell you the dream that I had at the very end. So there was this girl, she was around 15 or 16 years old, and she lived with her mom. Unfortunately, her mom lost her job and they had no money, so they ended up losing their house as well. So one of the mom's family members tells them that they have a house that they can live in because they didn't want them to be homeless, but unfortunately this house was like away from civilization. This house was in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by like hills and mountains, but since the mom and daughter had nowhere else to go, they accepted the offer and decided to go live in this house. They end up going to the house, and when they get there, they notice the strangest thing ever. Right in front of the door is this big ass tree. Like the tree was so big that when they would try to open the front door, it would be hitting that tree. So the mom thought it was really strange that the tree would be like right in front of the front door. So the people who actually gave them a ride to that house noticed the tree as well, and they told the mom that if she wanted to, they can also help her remove that tree so that it doesn't stop the front door from opening. And she agreed, so they decided to do it then and there. When they removed that tree, on the roots of like where the tree was growing, they see like a skeleton of a baby. The mom says that it looked like maybe someone had buried the baby a very long time ago because the bones of the baby skeleton were just being eaten by the roots of that tree. She said that they didn't end up telling anybody about it. She just, had the tree removed, they saw that, and they just like moved on with their lives. Time passes, and in this house, it's a 2-bedroom home. It's a little small, but it does have a hallway that leads to both of the rooms. Both the mom and the daughter start hearing noises in the hallway, and they realize that it sounds like a little baby. She even said it doesn't sound like an animal, it didn't sound like a kid, there was no like steps walking, it sounded like a baby playing in the hallway. So the mom almost felt guilty because she felt like something had happened there. I mean, they found the baby bones, and she just felt really bad that maybe the baby ghost was there. So she started leaving out baby toys in the hallway. I already have chills. So after leaving the toys in the hallway, the mom says that they would then start hearing this baby playing with those specific toys that were left out for it. She mentions that nothing scary would happen, but she did feel that over time, the baby's energy was growing and growing. So one day, the mom and daughter get into a really big fight. And I mean, they were screaming at each other, like they were going at it, and the daughter ends up going to her room and like slamming the door, and mom also goes to her room and slams the door. So when the mom goes into her room, slams the door, and sits alone, she realizes that maybe she was a little tough on her daughter. Mom felt so bad and so guilty that she's like, I'm gonna go to her room and I'm gonna, apologize and let's try to talk through it. So the mom goes and she knocks on her daughter's door, and of course the daughter didn't answer because she was pissed. After the daughter not answering her door, the mom still decided to open the door, and she starts off with, look, I really need to talk to you. And then she stays silent. The daughter was laying on her bed and she was like, what? That's when the mom was like, get up and come with me. And the daughter's like, what? And the mom's like, get up and come with me. The daughter's like, I thought you wanted to talk to me. And she goes, shut up, get up and come with me. So once the daughter realizes that something is going on because the mom was really seriously telling her to get up, she gets up. Her mom grabs her by the hand, they leave her bedroom, close her bedroom door, and the mom takes her back to her own room. So the mom explains that when she opened her daughter's door and told her, I need to talk to you, she looks at her daughter that's laying on the bed, and she sees a baby on top of her daughter's chest. She says that the baby was not a normal baby. When the mom was telling her daughter, get up and come with me, that baby would hold on to her daughter even tighter, looking at the mom and smiling at her. Oh my god, look at my arm. I think the reason why I imagine these stories in my head, so I'm seeing this shit like a movie in my brain. Can you imagine? She walked in there feeling so guilty that she got into a fight with her mom, tries to talk to her, and fucking sees a baby on her daughter's chest as she's telling her, get up and let's go. Baby hugs her daughter tighter while looking at her smiling. They left that house that night and never looked back, didn't go back to investigate, didn't want to know what the fuck happened there, because at that point it wasn't just a little innocent baby ghost, because she saw a baby, but it was not a normal looking baby. Now for my dream. So in my dream, I'm laying in bed. Leave it to me to take naps in my dream too. And next to me is one of my exes, because my dream wasn't scary enough. And in my dream, I'm waking up because I'm feeling something crawling up my body. And when this thing finally gets to the very top, I see a scary looking baby with fucking crazy teeth. And you know how like in your dreams you can't fight, it's like slow motion? Well, as soon as I saw that face, my hand was like trying to push it away. I mean, the baby was like biting my hand, and I was like, what do I do? Because I'm moving so slowly. I was pushing that baby towards my ex, who was still asleep, because what the fuck, take him, not me. But this baby wouldn't give up. It kept trying to come at me, and to the point where I'm slowly moving my fucking head away. It doesn't sound as scary, but like it was fucked up in my dream. Okay, so the baby's still crawling, and once it's like face to face to me, I guess I got so spooked that I woke myself up. All it had to do was go to my ex, like, why the fuck would you want me? But no, I got really scared. I woke up and I was like, what the fuck was I dreaming about right now? Anyway, I hope you don't have dreams about this story.